Good morning, everyone. This is my first time in Poland, having lots of fun. To start with, I would like to thank everyone in the organization. Like, they're doing an awesome work on this. You haven't seen enough. We're just starting. And also ABB, the major sponsor, and all of the other supporters responsible for doing this whole conference. And I'm Irio Musskopf. I'm the creator of a project. This project I started 1.5 years ago, almost 2 years. And as you can see by the title, it's a project that I use open data and machine learning. But why do I do it? Like, I could be doing many other things, interesting things, that could be giving me more money. And actually, this was happening. I was in San Francisco working for a startup in finance, so I was making lots of money, but I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy enough. I thought that I could do more for the community around me, for the people that I care about. So I quit this company. I started another, Data Science Brigade. It's a Brazilian company. And around this, I started a project that's in the top, Serenata de Amor. As you can see, Operation Serenata de Amor. It's one of the major projects in Brazil, the largest country in Latin America. And the person responsible for this analysis, Felipe Hoffa, is from Google BigQuery. And in the post that he published this, he asked, okay, what is happening in Latin America? Why do they have so many stars on this project? And as you can see, it was updated yesterday. We have more than 2,000 now. And it's a combination of factors. And I think I thought you could learn something from all of this. We also have a Telegram group with more than 500 members. And all of these people didn't know data science before, didn't know machine learning. Many still don't know, but they're using open data to learn a bit. So around April last year, after I quit this company, I started looking into things to do. So I quit the company, and the first thing that I thought was, okay, I don't take vacation for many years already, so I should give myself 1 or 2 months. My vacation lasted for 4 days until I started going into Coursera and learning new things on data science. Like, I was already working with data science before, but I started to learn more. And I started thinking, okay, I'm learning all of these concepts, and I can start taking some knowledge from all of the data sets. In the courses, they were all saying, oh, you can get insights from big data, like all of the databases available. You can collect more things. And they were telling me, you can estimate the price of a house. Okay, this is fun, but for doing that, I need databases of house prices. I could scrape that, but it wasn't interesting enough. So what I decided to do is to go to the governmental site, the Brazilian one, of open data, and start looking into that. Like, if I could apply the things that I was learning from those databases. So I started with a single one, the congressional spending, and I started seeing people renting aircrafts, spending lots of money in restaurants. And I started thinking, okay, this is suspicious, but maybe there's a reason for them to use all of this money. Like renting aircrafts, it's acceptable in some cases. But if you start thinking as a human, when is acceptable to rent an aircraft? Maybe you need to be an event. Like, first thing, you have money. The politicians have a lot of money because they come from taxes. So they have money. Second reason, they have something to do in a city far away, and there isn't available tickets. Okay, as a human, I can think about this problem and see that sometimes it's acceptable. Okay, maybe there's an emergency in this city. Okay, another reason. So as a human, you can think about a list of reasons to be acceptable to do all of these things. But for doing that as a machine, you need to collect data. So as a human, you go to Google, and okay, I have this rental of this aircraft in a given date by this politician. So I can Google his Facebook profile to know what he decided to do in that city. I can Google flight tickets at that time, but it's pretty hard. You have to keep doing that, all of this. For restaurants, you can think about many reasons to spend more, and it's not acceptable to spend like thousands of dollars in a single time. Okay, maybe a single time is acceptable, but if it happens every week, then I need to ask this person to stop doing that, because in the regulation, it's not acceptable to use public money for this. But maybe in a month, in a luxurious restaurant, it's okay. So I started thinking about all of these things, about the surveillance state, about privacy. And if you think the governments are already doing all of this with us, like all the governments, but who are doing, like watchmen, who are doing this with the government? And this operation started considering all of these things. Serenata de Amor, why this name? There was a case in Sweden in the 90s where a politician, a deputy prime minister, like she was about to become prime minister. She was discovered by the media to be using a public credit card to make personal expenses. And between the expenses, she had a Toblerone bar, a chocolate. Like it was about 3,000 euros. So this case was known to be as Toblerone scandal or Toblerone case. And Serenata de Amor, it's one of the major chocolate brands in Brazil and Latin America. Okay, I had many things to do. I could think about other projects. And why did I decide to do with politics with government? I don't know if any of you follow politics around the world, but this happened last year in Brazil. It was the impeachment that happened with Dilma. If you see the signs, it's written, "Tchau, querida," or in English, "Bye-bye, honey." If you consider the reasons why she was impeached, you could consider that if it was worthy or not. But I would say that this is a disrespect with a person who did something. And throwing confettis. So this was published in all the newspapers around the world. We had all of these things happening And politics in Brazil, it's pretty tough for a few years. We had a dictatorship in the 60s until 80s. We had a new constitution. We had 7 presidents since then. One died before inauguration. The one who took place, the vice, is still in politics and is searched by Interpol. We had 2 impeachments since then. One of them resigned right before the polls for his impeachment, but he was impeached anyway. And like these things have been happening. I'm pretty sure that you have things to say about your country, but I have many things to say about my own. So that's why doing something about all of this. And the last elections in 2014, as in many countries in Europe, in the US, we had a divided population. So at the top, the left candidate, and ISU, the right. So it was pretty divided, 51%, 48%. Right after the results of this, the impeachment happened. So again, reasons to do something about this. Okay, why do I care? Why do I care? Because nobody's caring. So I believe we have knowledge to do something about the cities that you live in. And sometimes we are thinking about like delivering things just to make more money, which is worthy. Like it's pretty good to have money. But if nobody's thinking about these causes, if you care about this, maybe you should do. So all of these corruption scandals happening in Brazil. Brazil is ranked in, it's pretty good, in the Open Data Index made by Open Knowledge. So corruption scandals, politicians are doing something with public money, and there's open data. So we started a project. I don't know how to do it. I didn't have many years of experience with machine learning, with leading projects, but I decided to do it. Like, why not? I'm on vacation. I have some money to spend a few months, and I think I should try it. So I started doing simple graphs with the open data in the Congress. And I started thinking about the reasons how a human would investigate all of these things. This picture is not from Narcos. It's from a seizure that happened a couple weeks ago in Brazil. It was the 6th largest in modern history. I think it's $16 million in cash. The person who allegedly owns this money, it's one of the assistants of the president, and that's why he's being charged for the second time in 2 years in the government. So it's a pretty tough problem, and we decided to try it. Many groups tried this before. Even the government, like they have people trying to do these things, analyze data, and white people outside the government or even without money would be able to accomplish it. Well, we were not a large startup, a large business, a consultancy company. We have to start by something. We have to do an MVP of ending corruption. So we decided to start with congressional spending. And the result was that I found a few suspicious things. Like many people spending, like, let's say, 400 euros in a single meal. So we had enough reasons to do all of these things. We just needed technology. So the first thing that I did when I started graphing these things was to tell others. So I told my friends, okay, I have this project. I'm not sure, I don't even know how politics in Brazil works, how democracy works. I just want to use my knowledge for something. So I told 2 other people. They said, okay, when I started sharing with them, and I got realized. So I would say that one of the things that we usually do when we have projects that we want to get it bigger is to basically hide from everyone. I'm pretty sure that everyone did this already. You think that to have a real nice project to gather the whole country is to hide it from everyone. And in my experience, it's exactly the opposite. So I started telling people, like if I was in a bar, I would say, okay, did you know that in the Congress, every Congress people has 10,000 euros per month to spend on like extra expenses, like renting aircrafts, with security, with meals, with taxes. Do you know that you get, like, for every Congress people, 10,000 euros per month you pay with your own taxes? And people in the bar like, okay, shut up. But then after the second beer, we start talking about these things. And they say, okay, corruption, like, it's pretty crappy, and I don't want to live in Brazil anymore, but there's no way of fixing it. And then, okay, I started interviewing these people. So, okay, did you know that there's open data for all of these things? You can get a spreadsheet with all of the expenses and the company IDs and the dates that they happen. And the usual answer was, okay, I didn't know. So why the government are not doing anything about this? From the beginning, I started thinking, okay, I have no idea why the government is not doing. And then I go back to my house. I start investigating on YouTube, and then I find out, okay, there's a Ministry of Transparency doing something. They are using machine learning to detect corruption. And then I go back to the bar, talk to that same person. Okay, I found out that the Ministry of Transparency is doing something. Okay. But the ministry won't accuse someone who hired them. That's true, I agree. So we had 3 people, we started in 3 people, and we started telling about the project for everyone. Like really, once we were walking on the streets, and my friend stopped someone on the streets and asked, okay, did you know that, like, do you think it's capable of using technology to end corruption? And this conversation in specific didn't last long, but we gathered feedback. So we started understanding how people feel about the project that we were creating. And all of these things we started applying to the project and applying to the communication. So we know that the people who follow it, who discover it for the first time, are going to think these things, and we already answered them. That's why marketing, I believe it's also important. we started thinking about communication. And I found some suspicious cases that I could start telling people. But in the end, we all need money. So we started to think about a crowdfunding campaign. 80,000 Brazilian reais, it's about the same in the Polish currency. For US specifically, maybe for Germany, France, this doesn't look enough for maintaining a team of people. But this was the largest project in Latin America of technology so far in technology. So we worked for 3 months on the campaign, on preparing, on interviewing everyone. Like, okay, I have this project. I already have proof that I can use technology to detect these things. Would you give me $50 for paying my bills and working on these things? $50, it's a lot, but I could give you 10. Okay, 10 is okay, but what could I make to get the other 40? Maybe I need to know more about you. Maybe I need to know what you're going to do with these suspicions. And then, okay, we started applying all of these things, releasing videos, and we got this result. In the end, the algorithms work basically on this way. Entering in the congressional site, we get an XML with 1.5 million reimbursements. We get the congressperson ID. We get the company ID who received the money, how much, when. And by when, I mean just the date. You don't get the time. You get the category of the expense, like meal, aircraft, rental. We go through, we pass this reimbursement through algorithms of machine learning, and we say that it's suspicious or not. Just that. And we also get the picture of the receipt. Okay. We started analyzing all of this. We gathered a team of 10. 1 doing marketing, like 4 doing technology, 2 data scientists, 1 administration. So in the end, we had a multidisciplinary team doing many things, like in a company. And doing a lot of this in a hacking project. So usually, in this kind of projects, you think that you need like a dozen people doing code. And we actually need it. Like, if we had 50 people doing data science, we would have much better results. In the end, we had 2. And we prefer to get maybe more designers to communicate all of this, so we could make better marketing, get more money, and then pay more data scientists. So we created a robot, which is the algorithm that we created, the project, called Rosie. It's the part of the project that we apply machine learning. We receive reimbursements, and we output suspicious or not, and the reason. Okay. The crowdfunding, there's an interesting thing. I said that doesn't look enough, and we agreed when we were thinking about the crowdfunding. When we were planning it, we said, okay, I need 10 people, 5 data scientists for 6 months, because I cannot deliver anything in less than 6 months because I researched, and the projects that I did before of data science, they take 6 to 8 months. And for that, I need 600,000 reais. And we started researching all of the technology campaigns in Brazil, and we noticed that the largest of them had received 30,000. Like, we looked at each other in the same room. Okay, we won't get 600K. So we literally crossed a zero. We wanted 60. And we started thinking, okay, with 60, what can I do? We asked for 60, and we got 80. So we had many limitations. We didn't have enough people that knew machine learning. Like, how am I going to deliver something in 3 months, which was enough for like that money that we raised? I started interviewing people, specialists in Agile, and they didn't know anything about data science, about machine learning. But I need to get something from you. Like, I started sending emails for people who I didn't know, but I was just presenting myself. So, okay, I'm Irio Musskopf. This is my project. I need to know more about you, about your knowledge of Agile consultants, but I cannot pay for it. And I started getting answers. So I started Skyping with them, and they said, I don't know anything about data science, but I know about software. And with software, how would you do that? You have to deliver fast and something and get feedback. And they started giving me articles to read, and I came up with something called hypothesis-driven development, which is something, it was created by a company called ThoughtWorks. And the whole idea is that I have to come up with a hypothesis that I need to prove it. And how am I going to apply this for data science? We didn't have any reference, no research, no person to ask, so we created. And our way of viewing this was to give a time box and publish it publicly and say, okay, I have 2 weeks to detect suspicious meals by their prices. How? I have no idea. So I have 2 weeks to discover. If I cannot discover in 2 weeks, then by the end of the 2nd week, I'm going to tell everyone in public, okay, here are the results that I had. I couldn't find anything that I could implement, but okay, next one. So we had 3 months to do something because we received money. So we had to give results, and we thought about like 3 or 4 hypotheses that we would be solving during this time. The things, like, these are a few things that we are able to detect nowadays, 1.5 years later. First, the easier, you don't need any data science, which is the quotas. So some categories of these expenses, you have a limit, you have a monthly limit. So you can spend about 3,000 euros renting cars per month. If you pay more than that, in theory, the Congress should refuse, but sometimes they didn't. So the first thing that we tried was, okay, in theory, in the law, it's saying that there is a limit. Can I detect anything that goes over this limit? And we did. We found like 100 expenses over the limit. We contacted the Congress asking for more information. How did I do that? I did was basically, okay, according to the right of access law, I can ask information about the things the government is doing. And I noticed that this person spent more than it should, and I wanted to know why, and if this is a mistake, I want the money to be returned. In meal prices, the way that we did it was to compare all of the expenses between each other by the company ID. So if you start thinking, every time that I create a machine learning solution, I started thinking as a human. So how a human would solve this problem. We found a meal that costed like 30 euros. Okay, when 30 euros is fair? Okay, maybe if you're in a category of restaurants, and if this happens twice a week, maximum. Okay, so we created an algorithm for doing all of this. And how we apply it, we compare all the expenses in the same restaurant by the e-commerce people. So if many people are expending way above the average, like 3 or 4 standard deviations above the average, I'm going to report it as suspicious. This is not the solution for our problems, the definitive solution, but since we have the picture of the receipt, we can get these suspicions, tell a human, do crowdsourcing, and ask it to see the receipt. If it's fair, then this person, with a person ID, it's going to report the government, not a robot. And it actually works. We're able to detect also time travelers. We found this in many cases of this. Basically, in this quota, they have the right to spend with meals just for them, not for 30 people. So they cannot pay for their families, for their assistants, anything. So in theory, if they ask reimbursement for a meal, we know that they're saying that they were there. We published all of these things. We started working with newspapers. And we called the national TV, who showed and interviewed the responsible for eating 3 lunches in a single day, 1 in the extreme south of Brazil, and 2 in the extreme north, in the Amazon. He asked for the reimbursement of these expenses, and he got the money back. So if we have the time of the expenses, we have the amount, we have the days, then we can calculate like a simple calculation of traveled speed. And then we use like polynomials to detect what is out of the range, like what is not expected. We also detect election expenses. With election expenses is basically in the law related to this quota, they have the right to ask for reimbursement for many things, except for things related with the next election. And we detected 200 expenses in companies who had the category election company. So basically, they were donating for other politicians with public money. Again, all of these things could have been made by a person working for the government. But there are so many, like it's 200 per day. So there aren't enough people for analyzing all of these things. And with technology, using the same technologies that governments do to detect what we are doing, then we could do the same with them. Irregular companies, this in theory should be something that the government should be doing because it's written in the law. The financial department is going to verify the regularity of companies receiving money from this quota. And in fact, we also found 2,000 related with this. So they were irregular. They were closed, or they were in negative states by the government itself. We detect alcohol. So if we have the picture of the receipt, we can do OCR on the receipt. And we have a list on our code of all the beers, of the wines, of the whiskeys. And there's no rocket science on this. We basically convert the image of the receipt, PDF, convert to PNG, OCR, and then, okay, where can I find alcoholic beverages here? And then, if I can find something, the algorithm is going to report suspicious for alcohol. And just recently, we started analyzing car rental prices. And at least in Brazil, it's a very easy way of basically stealing money. Because you can open a company that is going to rent cars. In theory, the car should exist, but nobody verifies that. So they said that they keep renting the same car for the same congresspeople for 3 years. And we're still investigating this because this is much more dangerous than telling that a person was eating a meal of $200. And we're involving other citizens at this time, the owners of the company. And with this, we detected suspicious, so far, about 3 million euros. The architecture for all of this, we use Python. We use Jupyter Notebooks. We use scikit-learn. We use DigitalOcean for hosting these things. We use Google Cloud for the OCR, for hosting the files related with this. And at the end, we said that we had money enough to pay for 3 months. What we did was, okay, I still have many hypotheses to test. I can still detect many suspicious. But if I want to continue with the project, then I have to change plans. Like all of the things that we heard about Agile, we have to think about it now. So we changed plans, and in the last 3 weeks, we started planning for a hackathon for looking through all the suspicious that we found. And as a human, look to the receipt, look what the algorithm was saying, and if I agree that was suspicious, then I would be reporting to the government with my own ID, not a robot. So in the last week of the project, it was in January, we reported 216 people, 629 reports, and we questioned more than 300,000 Brazilian reais, which is about the same thing as the Polish currency. In euros, you divide this, I would say 100,000 euros question. We received of investment 80,000 reais. So the return of investment is 371%, which is pretty good. Things we found, the first case that we found was a congressperson spending public money in a beer in Las Vegas. So this was the first case that we started telling people and asked them for money. So, okay, if I didn't implement any machine learning for this, and I already found a person spending on beer in another country, in the Gordon Ramsay restaurant, then if I have more technology, more investment, I can do more. So this case were our proof of concept. A cheese sandwich, which is basically bread, cheese, bread. You fry it. We found one of 220 reais. Divide by 3 or 4 you have in euros. It's pretty expensive, even in a hotel, a luxurious one. We found a person eating 13 kilos of food in a pay-by-weight restaurant. How we found this? We used the prices of the expenses. We gathered all the prices spent on that restaurant. We calculated the average, standard mean, above 4 standard means. And then we found like an outlier. We flagged that as a suspicion. We looked into the receipt, and okay, here is 13 kilos of food. We found a person eating 13 meals in a single day. We also found 12 meals in a day. We had like dozens of people eating 8 times in a single day. We found a person eating 3 lunches, which could be acceptable depending on the person, but separated by 4,000 kilometers. We found expenses in Brazil while the politician was posting pictures in London. And my favorite, a person eating a whole goat for this price. So we did all of this. We detected cases. We started reporting. And we gathered 5,000 suspicions to do a manual analysis. So we spent a whole week with the whole team looking through the receipts. So for continuing with the project, we found out that we needed to report. Like, doesn't matter if I have 5,000 suspicions. I have to find out how many of these suspicions are true positives or false positives. So we put the whole team, like there is no special person, the administration, the data scientists, no. Everyone is going to use a simple system created in 3 days to look through all the suspicions, click in a couple buttons, and pre-fill a text to be sent to the Congress asking for more information, and if there's any mistake, return the money. So with all of these 629 reports in a single week, we were called by the Congress. They sent us an email asking for a number. We talked with them, and they were inviting to meet with them in the Capitol. Since I was the creator, so I had to go, and another person came with me. And the official answer was, okay, the thing that you are doing are pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome, really. The things that you're finding, maybe we got a mistake, and we should have not accepted. But there is a problem. Usually, in a week, I get 50 requests for information. Just as we asked for more than 600. So I had to ask 3 people to come from their vacation just to answer you, because in the Constitution and in another regulation that came a couple decades ago after the Constitution is from 1988. It's saying that the government, when I ask for information, they have 20 days to answer. And for considering these 20 days, they also have extra 10 days if they need more time but they have to tell me, okay, I'm going to need 10 more days. If they don't answer me in time, then I can report to the Supreme Court. So they had to call people from their vacation. And they said, okay, I liked a lot. I wish my children could be doing this in the future. But please, don't do it here. Do it in the judiciary, because you know politics. I'm not a politician. I'm just the administrator. And I cannot go to the politicians and tell them that they're spending money in a suspicious way. So what we started doing was to start tweeting the suspicions. We created a Twitter account, Rosie, the name of the robot, of Serenata. And before going to this, we took a few weeks thinking how we would be doing. We planned that we would be mentioning the politician. So the tweets, they say, suspicion expense from a deputy called at the name. Can you help me verify? And then the link of our platform. And then we started mentioning also the Chamber of Deputies, part of the Congress. So every suspicions that we detect, we tweet. It's not really in real time, but because they have more days to request the reimbursement. But we tweet, we mention the person, so the politician is going to be the first one to know, and they can answer. All of this is open source. From what I researched is Poland doesn't have all the data, as in Brazil. Brazil, it's in one of the better positions in the Open Data Index. It's in the 12th position. Poland, it's in 30-something. But maybe, I know you have information on budget. So maybe you cannot do exactly this that I'm doing, but you could try to apply this knowledge to other things. And the whole reason for starting detecting these things, because at the same time, like I showed the picture of the Caesar of 13 million in cash, USD. I showed the picture. The largest operation against corruption in the history of the country is happening at the same time in Brazil. From my research, it's the second largest in modern history. The first is from Italy in the 90s. And everyone is talking about billions of dollars that people are taking away from the government every year. So the UN estimates this in 200 billion reais per year. And we're talking about 30 meals of 200 reais. So this doesn't make any difference, you could say, but I would say that this is a start. All of the organizations working in the government, they're working top-down. So they're thinking about the largest expenses and coming bottom. And they don't have enough money to think about these expenses. But we believe that thinking about the opposite, bottom up, you can get corruption when it's starting. So if you have opportunity to pay for your family, your meal, and you know that, okay, 200 billion reais are being taken away by corruption every year in Brazil. If I pay this meal for my family, won't make any difference. I'm much better than the others. But if there's a Twitter account who is going to call you out a week later and telling everyone that you actually did this, maybe you won't get to the point of millions or billions of dollars. So, thank you. I hope you had some inspiration to do something like this in your own countries. We had many problems. We had some open data. We had many problems with the technology, but I believe you can do the same. Thank you.